In life, we have moments of time to show people who we are, and I apologize that my audio file keeps getting interrupted, but AT&T's app is merciless. I can't get it to stop, I can't delete it off my phone, and I feel violated by that. That I have purchased a phone, or had one purchased for me by a loving pastor, and every 2 to 3 minutes, AT&T's application is trying to take over my phone, and it interrupts everything I'm doing. It shuts off my video, it interferes with what I'm trying to do, and it's a violation of my rights. It's almost a human rights violation because it's interfering with my right to technology, which is one of those things listed that says we have the right to without someone encumbering us. You see, the problem of local people is that they don't think about that there is a federal law of some kind or a civil rights law of some kind that protects our rights. Literally yesterday I was schlepping a lot of stuff. It took me 2 and 3 different trips to keep moving little by little from the place that I was to the place that I am right now. And openly, a black man walked up on my property, and I just said, "Get away from my stuff." I was not in the mood to be trifled with, and I'd been so trifled with by all these people from the shelter and this little game that this MTD has played on my life and all this other stuff that they think I'm too stupid to observe, which is not true for a man with my type of visual capabilities. But the reality is that he just decided to pursue me. He then decided to follow me. Then he decided to follow me some more. And if he had come a third time, it would have been a major violation of my rights. He had no right to pursue me. He had no right to insult me. He had no right to tell me all this stuff. But I told him off several times. But he didn't listen. Now, that was a man to a man. That was a white man to a black man. That was a man saying, "These are my rights. This is my day. These are my goals. And you are not a part of that at all." That was a total stranger harassing me, then going up to people in apartment complexes and talking to them on their balconies, trying to insult me and put me down. And I'm like, I don't know this guy at all. Who the hell is he to take up my time or that person's time or his own day doing little shit games like he's a teenager? And then I went and sat down after schlepping all the stuff because I am older and I needed to rest my heart and make sure I don't have a heart attack, as my late mother's often worried about. And I sat down, and then a little bit later he came back around again. And I finally just got up with my staff and made it clear that I wasn't going to tolerate stuff, and he took off running. And that was wise of him. Because when you start to assault someone, when you start to pursue someone like that, there is a right under federal law of self-defense. Someone tried to deny me that right in a different community, and I put them in their place and say, "You don't have the right to deny me right to a firearm, to protect my life from the harassers, the rapists, and the molesters of the world." Now, I don't believe in carrying a gun, but there is a point at which we go to that we have the right to defend our life physically from those who assault us. The problem is, if they're assaulting us in the middle of the night, if they're playing audio files, which is immoral in God's house and highly illegal under international human rights laws, on our brains so that we can't function, so that they can do things to us, which sounds like a science fiction movie that we've probably seen several times in Neo and other types of things, and actually in film that shows people can be manipulated by the inaudible tones. I've talked about the Kingsman many times, but the reality is it is totally possible. And if they're using those technologies on us, what rights do we have? You see, we had the right to not have that utilized on us, but there are ill-willed men who think they have the right to lie, steal, and cheat people out of their lives, out of their personhood, out of their paperwork, out of their property. And I experienced that greatly throughout this struggle of people harassing my life for the last 5 to 6 years. All because someone couldn't say something to me in person. All because someone thought they'd make a phone call to get something to stop, instead of going and saying, "Hey, let's do like we always do. Let's go meet for lunch. Let's go have a snack at Panera. Let's go talk about this." You see, people always feel they have rights to harm someone. I even had a sibling who called police on me several times, and I thought, what the hell for? I'm a guest in your home, and I barely got a space to turn around in, and you're going to shit on me with 7 officers of the law, who then would not leave me alone for after that time? And that was in Noblesville. I have a right to walk without someone saying, "Why are you walking?" Just because I'm carrying bags doesn't mean I'm doing anything illegal or immoral, but there was plenty of middle-aged women who thought they would allegedly call police on me. Go do your own life and leave me alone. In my lifetime, I've never seen such violations of a man's rights as I have through men and women over 40. I see men talking for women. I see men who are allegedly dating some girl in college saying, well, I won't, stop you if you want to do that. I'm sorry, you don't own that girl. You're not married to her either, so therefore the implication that you have the right to stop someone to do something they belong to do is not your right. I've even been on the street corner looking for some assistance, and a woman would like to help me, which is a typical demographic who likes to help in that 20 to 30-year-old age group, and some man will talk her out of it. Some white man. The truth is, white men are amongst the absolute worst about helping people. I've determined this through the months and potentially years of being in and out of homelessness because of the attack on my life by a white man who thought he had some rights to me. I don't even know this man, but he has still continued to pursue me. And you know what the coward won't do? He might show up in front of me and show himself to me like he did the other day. Whoop-de-doo. Like he didn't get that I didn't know who he was or something. But what a real coward does is he hides what he does. He never talks about it to anyone. He never shares to someone what he does. And that allows him to stay cowardly. You see, it's easy to walk up to someone and say, this is what I'm doing to you. And you're like, great. Now I can take it out on you in response. But it's something else entirely to admit to people that you work with what you've been doing. And literally get them to understand what you've been doing. The truth is that in life we have moments of time to make a difference for someone, and if you're still listening and not understanding that poverty can hit your life, and that cybercrime can hit your life, and identity theft can hit your life when they took my licenses and did things to them that they didn't have the lawful right to represent me in, that you're foolish. We have people who think they have rights to do that. We have people who think they have the rights to put their hands in your pockets if you fall asleep in an airport because you're so bored out of your mind. Because there's literally nothing to do. There's no networking room where there should be. And usually those places are full of people who are alcoholics anyway. They have bars. People don't need a bar. They need a social room where they can go in, meet people, mix people, learn about new opportunities in life, learn about opportunities across the land. Maybe people want to move. Maybe people want to get new jobs. They need rooms like that all over. We used to have social clubs. In that film Dirty Dancing, we saw that there was a social club, and there was the in-group and the out-group, and that shit has been going on for a millennium. But there is no in-group and out-group in God's house other than people who love on those go to heaven. The people who hate on those and destroy lives and plans that the Lord has made for others actually end up in hell. And there's ways to check whether or not you're going to hell with the pendulum or some other tool, but most people are too terrified of the gifts of the Lord that they think that their way is the only way to heaven, and it's not true. In life, we have moments of time to tell people how we feel, and I love this woman. I love her so much that I barely could breathe when I was with her. I love her so much that when she dated me briefly, even though it wasn't officially a date, it felt like a date, everything about it was a date, and we had several of those, that I was just in absolute, utter heaven. I could sit there and listen to that woman talk for hours, and that's the kind of man I am. Not at all. I'm usually pretty social. My mother and father raised me to be educated, to be intelligent, to utilize my social skills to help others to feel comfortable and to feel open about me and them in their own lives. My father was reportedly quite proud of me one of the last times that he was still fully functioning as himself because of how I helped the men at the table to interact with politeness and care and without the stupid-ass one-upmanship that they play in. You see, white men are amongst the rudest in the world is pretty true. White men often talk over black women all the time. I've had that happen in Walmart, that I'm literally going through the Walmart in a mobile vehicle because my legs do have struggle. They do have difficulty at times, and if I just walk there, I'm already needing that assistance. It doesn't mean I'll need it all my life. It just meant in that moment of time, because someone has monkeyed with my rights to health care, that I need that assistance. Now think about that. Do people have the right to get involved with your medical health? Does someone have the right to lace your food and take you someplace and investigate your body thoroughly in a way that they feel comfortable to monkey with your medical records and get who they want to be assigned to you? Do they have the right to do this? And the answer is, under federal law and international human rights law, absolutely motherfucking not. And yet, we have to swear to get people to listen. We have to literally get outraged to get people to hear us. These are the laws of America. And America is the leader in the world, and we are leading people with these laws, yet we have stupid-ass people who live and are born in our nation who don't recognize our own laws here. We have illegals here all the time. I pointed thousands of them in this community. And where are the fucking police officers in plain clothes to pick up the information and go with it and remove them from our planet? And I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm just saying send them home. They don't belong here. They're interfering with their life because once they bend that rule, once they do it illegally, then they bend the others. You see, I have brought someone here to America fully legally. I have pursued every aspect of the law with that person to the ability that they had the freedom to do what they need to do under the law. It's not hard, it just takes time. And it takes proving yourself by that person. You see, we used to have a credit system where people could prove themselves. Now, that is the way it is in relationships, that people prove themselves. But if you cut off communications, if you act like a child, if you act like a teenager, if you play games on them that they don't even know they're in a game, it's rudeness. It's an attack on their life, and they have the right to defend themselves in any lawful way possible. Now, in my situation, my hands are freezing. You see, even audio files can be played to harass a person, but it's really a psychological abuse. It's called gaslighting, where someone is constantly pestering and bothering someone. But in an inaudible channel where we only can hear it in the mind and we cannot intellectually or psychologically hear it the way that we normally hear other things, someone could program you to say that your hands are freezing, your feet are freezing, do this, do that, and it's not moral. The Lord is my shepherd is what we say in the Bible, and we say it in a lot of the professions that allegedly serve our communities. But the key word is serve. You are serving a community. You serve your local chief first, you serve then the mayor or someone next, and then it goes all the way up the command to the president. And you have to ask yourself, did the United States president ask you to harass and harm someone? The answer is no. But beyond that, if you have a person of faith, if you have a person who allegedly is religious, you better start to pay attention to the Ten Commandments, because what did it say? It says, thou shalt not kill. And that literally does not mean necessarily the physical assault on someone to the point of their physical death. It can mean the assault on themselves psycho-emotionally, so that the soul is harmed. Thankfully, the Lord keeps me intact. I have enough prophetic gifts to know what's coming and when it's coming, and it's not me ever that has those gifts. It's the Lord who bestows them on me. He bestows them on me because I've submitted everything that I do, every single thing that I do to Him. And when I do that, the magic of Jesus comes through. But most people won't submit even to their own life partners. And I don't mean submit like you're a dog, or submit like they're going to be in ownership, like some of the horrible relationships we've seen and shown us on television and cop shows, where people are put in boxes and all this sort of ridiculous sex game crap, because God is not pleased with any of that, and He is taking care of it. You see, this plague that we're experiencing is no shock. It was predicted a long time ago by Nostradamus, was it not? That there would be a plague. But the plague is a result of people's lies. That people lie, steal, and cheat others out of rights every single day is true. You don't have the right to tell someone they can't help someone. You don't have the right to interfere with their mind. You don't have the right to interfere with their records. You don't have the right to change things that they put in place for their life because you don't like what they're about. You don't have that right in God's house. God creates the soul. God puts the soul into a being. And sometimes birth defects and other things occur that change what's going on. We've seen this time and time again, that there's a lot of people with special needs. And is that God giving them the special needs? Sometimes. Or is it a birth defect caused by relational outsides of a person as they are literally in the womb, and that woman is having an estrogen release, and that release changes things? We know from science that is possible. Now, I just use that as an example, but we could say that God also gives families, people with Down syndrome, to join their families, to teach them and to not demoralize them, but to remind them of the preciousness of life. And whether they turn out to be an asshole on the Howard Stern show in terms of being a little person, or whether they turn out to be a beautiful soul that does wonderful things in the world, like Joni, who has difficulty with hands and feet, that's an amazing thing, isn't it? You see, whenever I see someone with special needs, I usually say a prayer for them. Whenever I see someone who's looking like they're having difficulty physically, I stop and I say a prayer for them. Whenever I see a little creature that's been lost, life's been lost, I say a prayer for them. But here's what I know about God's animals. They know who's of God and who's not. And I literally have squirrels walk up and go, "You got food for me?" Because the word on the street is, "You feed us." So keep playing like you think you know God's house out there. And I promise you, you don't even know the magic of God in one iota that you could possibly know if you started to submit yourself to the Lord Most High, because our lives are not our own. They belong to Lord Jesus if you believe. They belong to Muhammad if you're in that dereliction of Christ's world. But I can't say it's a dereliction, because the Lord God